babes, and welcome to yet another episode of Unpublished. My name is Amy.
I'm James.
And today we're going to talk about the role control has on our creative journeys, and kind of just let you into a little bit of what's happening for both of us creatively at the moment. We've decided before we jumped on that this is going to be a bare minimum podcast. We're both pretty fucking tired. So we're just excited to get to kind of just touch base with you, let you into our thoughts, and then we're going to be like, bye.
Yeah, I know a lot of you have said in the past that you really like our long episodes, but I'm really sorry. I want to go back to like 15 minutes. Looking back through our old ones, we have like really short ones, and I'm like, we've been pushing it out.
Yeah.
So
I don't mind a long potty.
Why am I so loud on the mic? Come on, people.
Come on, people.
Anyway, let's just hope it's okay.
All right, so you came up with this topic idea, James, literally like 2 minutes ago. Tell us why.
It's not actually about control. So control is not the way I would conceptualize of it. It's about understanding what we can and can't control.
Yeah.
So the key is actually to get to grips with the limits of control. And that's the key thing, because like 99% of things are not in your control.
Yeah.
More like infinity things are not in your control, because like, you know, if you expand it out enough to the scope of the universe, then obviously infinity things aren't in your control. And if you spend your whole creative career worrying about the parts of your creative career that are not in your control, which is most of it, then that's how you're going to get into funks. That's how you're going to burn out, feel depressed about your career, feel depressed about your creativity. The only way to stay grounded, the only way to stay to keep in a positive mind frame about your career, really, I find, is to return to what's not and what is in my control.
And I'm guessing the reason why you decided that this would be the podcast topic today is because you've strayed from this.
Yeah, I went those of you who have been listening for a while will know that I'm really into, and I have been in the past, really into The Daily Stoic, the journaling book by Ryan Holiday and someone else. I always forget the other person's name. I feel really bad about
person?
it. Yeah, he co-writes it.
Oh my god, that's so sad.
I know, isn't it?
I swear it's only his name on the front.
I think it's like the old big Ryan Holiday, small other person, but the other person's so obviously sad. A legend. And as we've said before, some people can really bounce off Stoicism because they think it's like some kind of like just grit through things, but that is not what Stoicism is. The key Stoic principle, and this is the first lesson in the Daily Stoic Journal, is from Epictetus, and Epictetus basically just says the heart of Stoicism is control and not control, and knowing what to control is what you can control and what you can't control. And it's so true. Like whenever I feel down about my writing, it's like because I'm worried about how agents are going to look at my proposal. I'm worried about whether my book is good. I'm worried about whether I've done like enough by some arbitrary standard, rather than just going, okay, what can I actually control in my creative life? All I can control is my own attitude when I turn up to write. And I mean, it's even, even when you get to the point of like, I can control how many words I write in a day, that's even almost beyond your control.
What?
I mean, I don't think it is. I think that's what I choose to believe, that how many words I write in a day is in my control.
Yeah, but you could extrapolate it to the point where like, but then if you do extrapolate it further and further and be like, well, literally nothing's in my control, then you can feel so powerless.
Well, then you get into a whole free will discussion, and basically like, if you want to go down the rabbit hole of free will and convince yourself that we have no free will, then like sometimes I find that's the logical place to go, but it's not helpful.
So this conversation was banned in our household for a while because James was really interested in this idea of whether we had free will or not, and he kept wanting to discuss it, and like it's really interesting for like a fucking minute, and then it's like, well, this is just depressing, because if you choose to go down the no, we have no free will, it's like what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. So I think, practically, instead focusing on assuming that you have agency, assuming that you can, make a choice at certain points in your life. You when you either deciding yes, I'm going to sit down and write, or yes, no, I'm not, you can have a choice in that moment. That's almost all we have as creatives. That moment where we could or couldn't create, and it turns and it becomes, and you choose, yes, I will. that's almost the only battle we really have to fight.
Yeah, I love that. Like, that's the battle we have to engage in. There's no other battle.
And that battle leads to all the other battles.
Exactly.
That are outside of our control. So choosing in the moment to control how often you come to your art and how much time you spend on your art is the only thing that will benefit will an agent like my work? Will my book be good? Things like that.
Yeah, I was teaching this morning. I was a guest teacher with some actors, and we were talking about success, and we were talking about this is kind of just reiterating what you're saying, but the burnout that comes when all of your measures of success are outside your control. So we've gone over this a lot on this podcast, but when all of your measuring devices for success are externally gifted to you, so you have no control over how it is you succeed, the lack of agency, the lack of power that it leaves you with is debilitating. Like, we have to be able to understand how it is we can make impact without permission from anyone else, without needing anybody else involved. Because we need to feel agency, we need to feel that power, because we do have power, and we are incredible creative beings who do have agency in this world.
Yeah, and the longer I haven't done the Daily Stoic Journal for a couple of years now, because I felt like it was fairly ingrained, because I was doing it every day for ages. But you just slip away from these things, and like, it's only been in the last week or so that I've realized that I am in a funk right now, because that is out completely, like, that idea of control, not control, is completely gone from my life, or was completely gone from my life. And like, and what it is about when you get good at it and when you're in the flow with it is it's more like a mindfulness practice. So it's stopping whenever something, literally, you can get it so good at this, where if you can get it ingrained into you enough, it's like someone can literally like slap you in the face, and you can literally be so good at this that you go, hang on, like, my reaction to this is in my own control. I don't think I've ever gotten there, but people report that you can get so good at this. But things like
Sam Harris says he reckons he could be put in jail, doesn't he? Or is it Sam Harris?
Yeah, he says he could be in he reckons he could be in solitary confinement.
And he just would be like, that's fine.
So it's just another path to mindfulness, because that he got there through meditation. But this is another, and I think this really suits people who maybe don't want to sit in boredom for 10 minutes is a day and meditate.
Yeah.
I think, that's why journaling can be so good, and that's why the Daily Stoic Journal can be so good. But yeah, it's I've been in situations when I've been good at this, where it's like, my plane has been delayed for 2 hours, and you just sort of like, just that admitting, oh, well, that's not in my control, has helped so much. And then like, I'm kind of upset at myself for letting myself get away from that.
Yeah.
Because it's such a powerful tool. It like makes everything in life so much easier. It's like, oh, my query letter got rejected. Well, that was never in my control.
Yeah.
I could control how much effort I put into writing my query letter. I could control how much effort I put into writing my book, and that's where it stops.
Yeah, I completely agree. What about people who say that they find this like frustrating because it means that, I feel like I can't dream. I feel like I can't like think about the future that I want.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that?
I think, it's a fair point, but the Stoics would never say, don't have goals, don't have dreams, don't strive for anything. But it's just about being process driven. And this all comes back to being process driven.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, you can set yourself the big goal, but just acknowledging that the easiest way to get to that goal is by actually focusing on the controllables.
Yeah, and what you can control.
Yeah.
And I'm going to weave this into a practice that I've been doing at the moment. I've been reading Joe Dispenza's book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and I've been working with a few of his meditations. I know he's a controversial figure, but I've been resonating with some of his work. Not all of it, but some of it. And Joe has a lot of meditations about envisioning what it is that you want and really experiencing the joy, like the amazement, the gratitude in your body right now. So it's essentially about prepping your central nervous system and prepping your body for the feelings of success. And for me, this is I can do this every day, and I'm doing it with my breath work every day, right? I'm prepping myself for the future that I envision and that I love and that I want. And it's something within my control. So it gives me this kind of, it's not an illusion of control. I'm just having a little portion of, this is my dreaming time. This is when I pull my future into the present moment, and I physically feel my future coming to me, and it feels like a little controllable way to dream big.
Yeah, and I think this is something that I really get from Stoicism as well, is that when you become mindful enough of your emotions, and this is something we've clashed about in the past, you can have a degree of control over them. Like, you can't control what emotion arises in your body at any moment, but you can control how you react to that emotion.
Yeah.
You have 100% control over that. Sorry, I don't want to say, I mean, obviously there are exceptions to everything, and I'm saying this as someone without any serious mental health problems. In my case, I find I can do this. I'm not saying this will definitely be something that you can do, but in my case, I find that I do have quite a surprising amount of control. And this isn't about suppressing, it's about noticing. It's always about noticing. It's always about letting the emotion...
Noticing and then choosing.
Like the Stoics would never say suppress your emotions. They would say feel it, let it flow through you, experience it, and then once you identify it and you look at the emotion directly, it'll lose a lot of its power over you.
I mean, the reason why me and James clash over this so frequently is because I experience emotions obviously you can't measure it, but I would say tenfold. I experience emotions in a much more powerful way. And for me, especially, I have several different types of emotions, particularly lethargy or irritation. When I experience them, they consume me. And it feels like there is very, very little choice. And, I'm doing a lot of work at the moment on it, and I'm grasping it at the choice when I can. And, I've been doing a bit better. But sometimes it feels inescapable. Yeah. But I can still notice, and I still understand that there's a choice.
And I know for me, the difference between how I've been feeling for the last few months with, my meditation practice not being the best, not doing, I still journal every night before I go to bed, which helps a lot, definitely. But losing the structure of my journaling, which I really need from something like the Daily Stoic, I have noticed that I am in far less control of my emotions, and that trickles down to everything in my creative journey.
Yeah.
It's just
and in other things in life as well.
In everything.
In the gym. Yeah, everywhere.
And once again, it's control of your emotions doesn't mean not feeling emotions.
Yeah, that's a really important distinction.
It means being mindful of your emotions, and that's just such a powerful thing for me.
Yeah,
and I know the difference, and I can feel the difference. It's so obvious to me when I haven't been doing these things and when I have.
Yeah. It's so interesting having this discussion with us, because both of us we process so differently.
We used to be because the big argument we used to have was, I think it was around the difference between emotion and feeling. It was or thought. You couldn't thought. It was you were I'm having a thought which is sad, and I'm as a result, and and that is the same as the emotion.
Yeah.
Whereas to me, I like to separate those things sort of.
Yeah, it's way healthier.
But you always said that you're I think your problem was you were going, you're just saying you're better than me, James. And I was like,
yeah, you are.
That's not what I'm saying at all, because you have such an amazing emotional depth that I don't have. And I'm almost jealous of it all the time. It's you have a really heightened sense, and you're really amazing at feeling your feelings. Whereas sometimes amazing things can happen to me and I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, and sometimes really horrible things happen to me and I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah.
And it's it's a trade-off, right?
Yeah. It is definitely a trade-off.
And of course, and as I was saying before, it's I think when I feel like I'm in touch with the controllables, when I'm in touch with really identifying what's in my control, what's out of my control, I feel like I feel safer to experience emotions.
Yeah, interesting.
And I can enjoy the emotion more.
Yeah.
Because I'm more present in the emotion.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I remember, I've got some really weird examples of this, but I was playing a game of touch football.
Shocking that we're talking about touch.
I know. This guy on the team, this got me for days, and this is probably right in the middle of when I was journaling about this. The guys on the other team were just so aggressive, and I couldn't believe it. It's touch football. I play this because I don't want to play rugby anymore because I don't want to get a concussion and break my brain. So I'm playing touch, and these guys are pushing and shoving, and I just got so worked up about it, and I just thought it was so unfair.
Yeah.
But luckily this was and I was obsessing over it for days and days and days. And luckily this was the time when I was just starting to journal about control. And as soon as I realized this thing, I was I couldn't control it. These guys were being aggressive to me on the touch field. All I can control now is
your response.
My response. I was just a relief, and was I could suddenly just laugh about it and kind of almost sift and examine that scenario and really enjoy almost the examining of it.
Yeah, interesting.
I feel like I've gone a bit, I feel like I haven't nailed down what I'm trying to say here.
No, I know, it's good. It's a good conversation.
But it's just, I think it's like, if you can spend a couple of minutes a day just thinking about what parts of your creative journey or of your whole life are really in your control, like you really have influence over, like, which essentially means that anything that isn't you internally is a no.
Yeah.
And even things like the Stoics even say, your body isn't in your control. So that means things like, are you going to have a depressive episode? Are you going to have an anxious episode? Like things like this are also not really in your control. I mean, of course, there are things you can do to help those things, but like often these things just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and then there's another layer on top of your mental health though, which is your like response to your response.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you can just spend a couple of minutes a day thinking about this, it can really have a massive impact.
Yeah, yeah.
And it can mean like things like when I sit down to write, if I'm thinking about whether the scene's going to be good, if I'm thinking about whether an agent's going to like what I'm writing right now, the quality of the writing always declines.
Yeah.
It's always just so much more self-conscious, like not play, it's not fun, it's not free.
Yeah. This comes back for me where I'm at the moment. I'm just really battling with Instagram. A lot of content creators and people on Instagram are like, I don't know what's been happening, but like I just getting very, very, very little amount of people are seeing my work at the moment, and I can't control that. And the way that I think about it, and I'm like, well, what could I do to manipulate it? Like, how could I play the system? Like, what type of content would, sneak around this very strange algorithmic change? Like, and it's just so exhausting to think about that, because like eventually, like I can't, like I just can't. But I'm such a strategic person that like my brain keeps wanting to strategize around it.
But this is where it comes. It's like, yes, you can't, like, your response is in control. Like you can go, okay, well, I'm going to change my content.
Yeah,
true.
And
you making that different content is in your control. But then you always have to give up what the algorithm is going to do.
Exactly, I can't control the outcome.
So you can take action. Like action is always in your control.
Always
it's like, you can always take action. You can always take action. It's just that like sitting there stewing on it.
Yeah.
Isn't that.
Yeah.
And I think letting go of the stewing time and like embracing the action time is also a lot about what it's about.
And then I think also there's a stage of surrendering. So like there's, action is great and exciting. And like we do need to take action. A lot of the times the choice that we have, we can take beautiful and brilliant action. It's within our control. But then like I also feel like the way I've been pushing this Instagram thing recently probably needs more of a surrender than an action.
Yeah, 100%.
Like I just need to be like, well, this is the way it is.
Which is like, when I come back to being in control of my creative work, when I say taking action, I'm not saying like, now I realize I'm in control and all I can control is how much I write every day. I'm not suddenly upping my word count to 1,000.
Yeah.
I'm just being content with the 500 words I'm already doing.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting with that, being like, oh no, I'm already doing the controllable thing. And I can like, and it helps my mental health, because I'm like, oh well, I don't have to be so worried about what happens every day when I turn up to my writing. I can just let it be.
There's no worse feeling for me personally than this feeling of, oh, I really should be doing more. I really should be doing more. And this idea of like, you know what, you're doing all that's in your control already, and you're doing so well, and it's okay. Like just exhale. Like you're already doing it. It's very important part of me taking care of myself. That kind of language.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we've been 18:45. Well, sorry, since I turned the camera on.
Pretty good.
Is it pretty good?
Yeah, I'm happy. It was a bit of a random chat, but
a few things I want to finish on. One is, I think, whenever we talk about stoicism, there's not enough room in these spaces to talk about the fact that sometimes you're not going to be able to do these things perfectly. You're not going to be able to perfectly. As I was saying before, I struggle with it still. Like I feel better when I'm thinking about it every day, but like no one's perfectly able to just like dissect every moment of their life mindfully. It's just not gonna it's not a realistic expectation. And they don't talk about, these people, often men who do these big stoic books and podcasts, don't talk about the fact that sometimes there are real struggles for us. Sometimes your mental health might not be great, and it's going to be really much harder to do these things.
It needs to be nuanced.
Like these are just tools that you can use. And that I think when you are able to utilize them are really helpful.
Yeah.
It actually was really interesting in bringing up one of my niche favorite podcasts, Chasing Excellence by Ben Bergeron. Today he was talking about, this person was like, oh, Ben, you always say focus on the controllables, but my daughter is really sick at the moment and I just don't see how And he was saying, I don't see how I can put a positive spin on this. And Ben was like, well, controllables is not about putting a positive spin on a bad situation.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we're just in a bad situation. It's about like what tools can we use to better be present and understand the situation and see it clearly.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And then I also want to talk about the blog. Sorry.
That's all right.
That we're sending out a newsletter every week.
Yeah.
That's loosely based on whatever we've been talked about, whatever we talked about on the podcast, and it'll come out probably the day after the podcast most weeks, like a Tuesday. And that is mostly me writing. Amy obviously has editorial
privileges,
contributions, and reads it, and we bounce off ideas off each other. But I'm the one who's physically at the keyboard typing. So if you want to hear from me and from about all the sort of unpublished stuff we always talk about, like last week I did a email about why I like to interview people, and reflecting on our interview with Jay, reflecting on what is hard about interviews, and why you might like having an interview podcast or running interviews yourself.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Amazing. Anything else?
No, my breathing's all like off. So I feel like I'm out of rhythm.
Okay, well, shut up shop.
We said we were going to talk about where we were at the
well,
beginning.
I kind of talked brief. Oh my God, it takes so long for us to end a podcast.
Yeah, that's the best.
People are like, okay, we're done. No, and
I wonder if I should check if we have a massive drop off. I don't think we have a huge drop off at the end. So thanks guys for,
for sticking with
around.
At the moment, I'm doing a lot of different things. I'm writing my 2 books. I'm really hoping to have my second book, Maud, out by the end of the year. So I'm editing her at the moment. Still writing Jack, my historical mystery crime novel. She's in the second draft. I'm also putting together a proposal for a journaling book. I also really want to start properly making some cool fucking content for YouTube. Like I feel really creatively alive at the moment. And I'm excited.
Yeah, just reminding you that you can watch the podcast on YouTube and Spotify.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. If you want to see our faces. That's we're very gesticulatory.
We're very,
expressive with our hands.
We throw looks at each other.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot you're missing if you're
There's a lot you're missing. And something I feel like we've been wanting to mention for a long time is the canonical way. Have we mentioned this? The canonical way to listen to our podcast is at 1.5 times speed. If you're listening at 1 speed, you're doing it wrong. Sorry.
I just think that we sound
so
way
much
better. More put together at 1.5. So that's the canon, okay?
It's because you sound so erudite. You're like, all these ideas are coming at me like this, bam, 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 bam. Because it cuts out a lot of the pauses. So you seem like you're just flowing from one idea to the other. Whereas on 1 time speed, you can actually obviously hear us being like, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yes, so that's how we want you to listen to it.
Oh, and as for me, what I'm up to, I'm just writing my 3rd book.
Yeah, you
having fun. Well,
sometimes
trying to focus on what I can control, which is just getting the words down.
Yeah, you are.
And it's been hard. It's been really hard.
Amazing.
Thank you all for bearing with us.
And for being with us on this journey. We're so grateful for you. We've had some really fucking great responses to the podcast recently, and we're just so grateful to get to go and chat with you each week. It's the best.
Yeah, it's awesome. You guys are the best.
Okay, see you next week.
Bye.
Ciao.